Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. It is Monday, July 8th, and Joe Biden. Good old Joey. The geriatric, the puppet, the child sniffer. This is my favorite part. The guy that hits a golf ball backwards, but then goes on a debate stage and tries to challenge Donald Trump on his golf game, falls up a flight of stairs, looks for dead people in the crowd as if that's a normal thing, converses with people that have been dead over 40 years. That is how close Joe Biden is to death, you guys. He is now teetering between the spiritual and physical realm, that he's not only hearing dead people, but he's seeing dead people as well. This dude trips over a sandbag at a graduation ceremony and can't get himself up. But people like Joy Behar of The View and Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, tells us this guy's the most fit person you'll ever see in your life. Hell, he could do an Ironman tomorrow. This guy falls off his bicycle standing stationary, which there's not probably too many people in your life you've seen do that one. This guy also fights with his teleprompter every single day. It's the most insane statistic in all of politics. Folks, Joe Biden is undefeated. Joe Biden's teleprompter is undefeated. Holy Lord, it's morning. I haven't enough cup of coffee yet. His teleprompter is so undefeated that we actually want to get him a heavyweight belt, a championship belt of the world when Joe Biden hopefully gets his ass out of office, and we'll retire it. It'll be in Joe Biden's library if he ever gets one. Well, folks, Joe Biden is by far, not even close, the worst press secretary. Wow, I'm out of it. The worst president in American history. Patriots, it's great seeing with you. Wow, one thing that kind of threw me off here was a lot of people are asking, who is Special Agent? Special Agent is a moderator here that we added on to help run things. The question is who is Secret Agent 355? Now, if you look up Agent 355, it is a woman that did some work for the Revolutionary War. We don't know who it is, but we do have a moderator in the chat, folks. It did throw me for a loop. I was trying to read what you guys are writing, and everyone's putting question marks like, who's Agent 355? And I'm calling Joe Biden White House press secretary. I'm now sounding like him. I'm not fully awake yet, folks. It was a long weekend for me, and hopefully you all had a nice weekend yourselves. Saturday, I didn't really do much of anything. We did go live on Saturday, and we talked about the greatest lie ever told, as well as the greatest cover-up ever told, which is Joe Biden's cognitive decline. Now, there has been, in the past, presidents that have had medical issues covered up. The most notable one is FDR with polio. But even he came out later on and was like, all right, you guys got me. I can't walk. Like, you got me. It's like, we kind of do, man. You know, the wheelchair kind of gave it away, right? And Joe Biden sooner or later will be like, yeah, you got me. I got dementia. It's like, no, Joe, it's just the years of you rambling, mumbling, fumbling through your words. That's kind of what gave it away. It's not you coming out and ousting yourself, big guy. Okay, big guy. Yeah, you see what I did there. Well, folks, again, hopefully you had a lovely weekend. Could be more than happy to spend this fine Monday morning with True American Patriots. We got a lot of news to cover, and we got breaking news right now with all of you. If you haven't already, follow us over at Rumble. Follow us over at Twitter. We are streaming on all platforms right now. With that being said, the breaking news is Joe Biden, as of like 15 minutes ago, was on Joe Scarborough's MSNBC show, Morning Joe. And here he is, allegedly doing an interview on the news, but reading from a script. And just watch how poorly this goes. Again, this just happened.
Democrat, Joe, let me say it this way. The reason I've been out on the road so much all over the country, and while Trump is riding around in his golf cart, filling out his golf cart before he even hits the ball. But anyway, Democrat, Joe, let me say it this way.
I just want to play it again.
The reason I've been out on the road so much all over the country, and while Trump is riding around in his golf cart, filling out his golf cart before he even hits the ball. But anyway,
dude, she's even laughing. It's unbelievable. I'm going to keep emphasizing this through today's show. Everything that Joe Biden is doing right now, all these interviews, just all of a sudden, right, is to show that he's fit, is to show that he's capable of doing the job, is to show that he's mentally sharp. And every step of the way, it's done the complete opposite of what we're seeing. And so now they're alleging, as I mentioned, Joe is actually doing interviews from a pre-written script. Here's what that sounded like 15 minutes ago.
And I stopped by campaign field offices with John Fetterman and Madeline Dean, both strongly supporting me. The President and the First Lady, we spoke at a campaign ice cream social for AFSCME, Council 13 in Harrisburg. 40 minutes after we spoke with supporters. Stopped by Denham Coffee. I mean, I was with the governor of Pennsylvania. I stopped by campaign field.
You know, nobody talks like that. Nobody says things like that at all, like whatsoever. And the way he's talking is he's rambling off all these facts. He's making it seem like he's coherent. I did this, I did this, I did this. And the purpose of it is so he could show the American people, oh, look all the information that I can recall that I just did 24 hours ago. We're not impressed, Joe. Here's the issue. During your deposition with Robert Hur, you couldn't recall when your son died. Dude, you couldn't even recall when you were vice president, bro. Like the dates. They just said, give me like a range. And you know who backed him up? Joe Scarborough and other Democrats like 3 weeks ago when they were all ranting and raving. Oh, he's fit. It's unbelievable that Republicans would even ask about his mental health, but yet here we are. And so it's a really shocking thing, the fact that the media is trying to pretend like they didn't spend the last 3 years supporting Joe and his mental finesse. Now, if you haven't joined us over at Locals, I am on Locals now, and what I'm going to do is use that platform to write articles and opinion pieces based on whatever political topic seems kind of fun to talk or write about. And so head over to Locals if you haven't already and follow me over there so you can get some articles. If you want to donate, you can do all that fun stuff. That would be helpful. And like I said, you could just read the articles that are posted, which hopefully you enjoy them. So Biden wanted to make sure that he was right, that the average voter out there still wanted Joe Biden, and I'm confident they do. So here's Joe again 15 minutes ago saying as much.
I wanted to make sure I was right, that the average voter out there still wanted Joe Biden, and I'm confident they do. I wanted to make sure I was right.
Here's the sad thing, you guys. You might be thinking, there's no way in hell, Joe, the average voter wants you. He's right. He's right. New polls have come out, and Joe Biden's actually leading in some swing states. It's the most remarkable thing we're ever going to see other than Joe Biden's teleprompter being undefeated. That people are still going to vote for this geriatric, the guy that's not with us, the guy that's lost. I can't wrap my head around it. I know all of you can't. So the question is, how can you reassure the American people that you won't have another night like you did in Atlanta? And here he is.
How can you assure the American people that you won't have another night like the one you did in Atlanta?
Look at my career. I've not had many of those nights. It was a terrible night, and I really regret it happened. But the fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be on faith that can intervene on your way to go to work tomorrow?
Dude, Joe, we've looked at your career, and that's exactly what we've been talking about for over 3.5 years. Was we looked at your career, we saw what you looked like and how you talked before and how you look and talk now, completely side by side, two different people. I mean, things are so bad for you, Joe, that there's people out there that are pushing the idea that you're not actually even Joe Biden. There's people think that you're walking around with a mask on, bro. There's people thinking that you are actually a completely different person. That's how bad you are, Joe. So, just go look at me. Watch what I can do. We have been, man. Trust me. Oh, we have been. And it's cringy as hell and it's hard to watch. Hey, thank you so much for the $10 donation, Verjana. Greatly appreciate it. Bald Bradshaw, true American patriot. Thank you so much, folks, for all your donations. That one came over here on YouTube. We are also over at Rumble. Make sure you show us or give us a follow. Would love to show yourself in that live chat. Would greatly appreciate it. Well, Joe Biden, again, just over the weekend, had more of him rambling once again at a speaking engagement for his campaign. Again, you're going to hear me repeat this. The whole purpose of all of this, of him standing out there with his aviators on, acting all cool with no tie, right, in the heat, is to show that he's sharp, you guys. Here he is, mumbling and rambling.
With your help, I know we have your help. With my help, helping us working together, we're going to get a hell of a lot done for the American people. and we're going to make sure these things are. So anyway, I guess if I stand here long enough, all those folks in the back are going to die of sunstroke. With your help, I know we have your help.
Jesus, man. God, the confidence is just building. You know what I mean? I mean, the people, if you watch that whole tape, the expressions on people's faces is wild, to the point where Jill Biden, his wife, had to like grab the surrogates behind Joe and move forward to kind of just to get him to stop rambling. It really was a terrible weekend for Joe, and things are not going in the right direction. The problem you're seeing in the Democrat Party that Joe's going to have is that it's fractured. Is that going into this election, the Democrats, who tend to be united, more united than Republicans, they don't really fight with one another. They kind of eat themselves, but the ones that are eating themselves is from the progressive left eating the Democrats. Democrats are not getting behind this guy. You have his aides ousting him. His aides are leaking documents. They're freaking out behind closed doors. Joe Biden's lashing out at his aides and people, staffers. Jill Biden is lashing out as well. I mean, things behind closed doors are in nothing but chaos, and it doesn't help when you have a president going out over the weekend and continuously rambling through his speeches that he's trying to not do with a teleprompter, and it just is not possible. So here he is again saying that when I was running for Senate, each time I ran, quite frankly, not a joke, Philadelphia in particular got me across the line. But that's not true at all. He lies, he mumbles, he doesn't know what the hell's going on.
But look, even when I was running for Senate, each time I ran, quite frankly, not a joke, Philadelphia in particular got me across the line. No, I'm not joking. No, I mean it seriously, organizationally and in terms of fundraising, the whole deal. But look, here's the deal. This election is going to be about block and tackling, simple, basic.
Oh, it froze on us, the darn internet. Hold on, let me take care of you guys in that one. My bad. Sometimes when sometimes when you leave it up for a bit, it disappeared. Okay, well, it's gone now. We'll see if we can get that clip back for you a little bit later. He basically says, oh, well, we need to go knock on doors. We need to send out stuff. We need to make sure that we respond to the people's information that's coming in. That's really all he said. So that part was actually a little bit sharper at the end because he was going boom, boom, boom. But this guy is just falling apart in real time in front of the American people. And so his campaign comes out and again is still pushing the idea that Joe Biden is strong, that the position Joe Biden has is a strong one.
Voters are the people who, but make no mistake about it. This campaign is in a strong position, and we're in a strong position because of voters. You mentioned our staff. Our staff draws energy from voters. Voters are the people who elect presidents. There's only one campaign that is building an apparatus with field offices, ours at nearly 300 with staff, ours at over 1,000 across the battleground states. And this isn't just staff in Wilmington, Delaware. This is staff across the country in the battleground states talking to voters. And so President Biden gets his energy from voters. Our campaign gets our energy and enthusiasm for voters. And the people that we've hired on staff deeply believe in President Biden and Vice President Harris's vision for the country. And that's why they're on this campaign.
When you see somebody go out there and you hear the same word, kind of like Kamala Harris uses the same word over and over again, that's to basically implant messaging and a narrative into the listener. And so, as I've mentioned, right, I'm going to continue to repeat myself because I'm implanting a narrative, which is what the show's about, into the listener. And what that narrative is Joe Biden's not with us. Joe Biden's not there. We see what's going on, and they're going to try to flip the script sooner or later if Joe Biden doesn't drop out. What's the narrative of what that campaign spokesperson was saying? Is energy. It's all about energy. Why? Because behind closed doors, that was the conversation with the meeting. We need to get it out there and show that Joe Biden's sharp. He's physically fit. He has energy. He can do this, which is why they're chauffeuring him out from place to place to place and making sure all of a sudden he does all these speaking engagements. But when it comes to interviews, Joe Biden is reading from scripts. When it comes to interviews, he's sitting there having the questions given to the interview person ahead of time. And we all see through the smoke. Well, there's a cool clip here. We're not going to watch the whole thing from Kayleigh McEnany over the weekend, where ABC asked President Biden 4 times if he would commit to taking a cognitive test. Let's see what she has to say about this.
Questions tonight about Biden's cognitive decline. There was a blockbuster piece in New York Magazine yesterday. It was by reporter Olivia Nuzzi. and it made several disturbing claims about the president, including that he does not recognize old family friends or top donors, that his hand felt cool in a noticeably hot room, and that he once looked to her like, quote, something not of this earth. With slow speech, a waxy...
I'm so sorry. His hand was cold. He didn't even look like he belonged on this earth. It's unbelievable. Rajan, thank you so much for donating $5 over at Rumble. I greatly appreciate it. Hearts out to you as well. Thank you again.
Face and eyes that were open but not on. Newsy writes that Biden was overly protected by staff as far back as the 2020 campaign and has recently been, quote, cocooned within mounting layers of bureaucracy in an apparent effort to hide his condition from the public. Here with their analysis are Texas Congressman Ronnie Jackson, the former White House doctor, and Fox News medical contributor Dr. Mark Siegel. You know, Congressman Ronnie Jackson, so you were the White House doctor for former President Trump, and former President Trump always, he must have done it a dozen times when I was in his presence, recounted when he took a cognitive test in vivid detail. It's like he had memorized the cognitive test and, would tell people about it. I just was very struck tonight when Biden was asked 4 times, will you take a full neurological test? I have that every day. Will you take a specific test with a specialist? No, they said I'm good. Are you willing to undergo a test? Look, I have a test every day. Will you do it to reassure them? To which he said, watch me. Well, we all watched, and a lot of people think he should take that test. So why won't he?
He'd fail.
Well, but he won't take it, Kaylee, because obviously it's going to be a miserable failure. I mean, he would do absolutely horrible on a test of that nature. And he knows it. His team knows it. They've been avoiding it for a long time. I mean, we watch him every day. I think most people in this country have known for a long time that he's cognitively impaired and that he has no business whatsoever being our commander in chief and being in charge. But this recent debate was on such a grand scale. The one thing it did was it took the people that have been protecting him for the longest time, which is the mainstream media and the liberal left.
I don't know what is going on with this. We'll make sure that we get this taken care of for you right now. 212. Now, why is this again so important? Is because of the fact that Joe Biden's doctor is going to be getting investigated, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. Let's continue.
And the liberal left, it made it to where they can no longer defend him. But, to your point about this article, this is a huge cover up at this particular point, and we need to get to the bottom of this. As a member of Congress, when I get back, I'm gonna start pushing for us to have some congressional oversight here. We need to have a hearing. We need to get people in. We need to get Dr. Kevin O'Connor in. Like, I'll ask you, Kelly, why have not we heard from this man the entire time that he's been president?
Yes.
We have not had this person who's the president's physician stand up at the podium before the press and answer questions. When I was President Trump's physician, as you remember, I stood up at the podium for well over an hour when I had everybody and their dog coming after me, asking me the most ridiculous questions. I answered every single question they had objective data there at my side to go over. It was completely transparent. I had people like the great Sanjay Gupta, right? That was standing there trying to tear me down. Suddenly today, he's out advocating for cognitive tests. Where has he been for 3.5 years? Where has CNN and the New York Times and the Washington Post and MSNBC and all these other networks? Where have they been? This is a national security issue. I have been saying it for.
I wasn't gonna watch the clip for this long, but dude, this guy is spot on and just saying everything that we've been saying for the last 3.5 years, and it just gives some sort of comfort to the fact that we're not the only ones out here in the ether that see all this, and you have a former medical doctor to the president saying all of it. Thank you, Lord.
And since 2020, in February 2020, I started talking about this, and I initially got criticized and called out by President Obama over it. And I've been criticized over and over for saying this, and now the whole world is seeing it, and there's just no way around it. So yes, he needs to take a cognitive test, although some people might make the argument it's too late for that now. We all know he's got a problem, and I don't know if a cognitive test would change anybody's opinion at this particular point.
Well, you teed me up perfectly by mentioning the hostility of Sanjay Gupta of CNN toward you, because, oh, wait, he had this to say. Newsflash, let's play it.
Check this out.
I think a lot of the things that people saw at that debate weren't necessarily new, but they were sustained, and I think more pronounced than what we had seen in the past. If you take a look, slow response time, I think we saw that, sort of in a sustained fashion. Definitive word retrieval mix-ups, rambling, sometimes confused speech, reduced voice volume as well, and reduced facial movements. And these things can all be connected.
I mean, Dr. Siegel, that's the CNN doctor calling for this.
Well, listen, Kayleigh, we've been talking about this for 4 years. I talked about this with President Trump when I interviewed him back in 2020 in July. The issue isn't about a single cognitive test. As Ronnie Jackson just said, Congressman Dr. Jackson just said, there's a big cover-up going on here. And a cognitive test may not be the answer at this point because he's failed so many real-life cognitive tests. And by the way, you know what happens in a situation like this? The patient is the last to admit it. It's not surprising that he says, I'm fine, I don't need a test. My doctors say I'm fine. Well, where are those doctors hiding behind this? And by the way, Ronnie Jackson didn't mention the yearly physical, which always looks like there's nothing to hide. Neurologists examined him, they say. Neurologists examined him, but we've never seen an MRI report.
Correct.
We've never seen a cognitive test. And now it's 4 years later from where we first started talking about this. There's something called cognitive reserve. How much cognitive reserve do you have? If you haven't slept, if it's after 4 p.m., if you're disoriented a little bit, what do you act like? If you're president of the United States, not just with the nuclear codes, but with all of these decisions to make, what's your cognitive reserve, President Biden? And the whole world can see that it's extremely thin. There is no cognitive reserve.
Correct. There is no cognitive reserve. You're seeing it from multiple doctors on multiple fronts. Not just people that have actually served a president in terms of being their doctor. But look, the Biden administration keeps coming out and saying, especially from the White House press secretary, which we're going to go live around 10:30 again because there's another White House press briefing today. We'll see how that one goes. So we'd love for you to join us during that White House press briefing. Again, that should be at 10:30 today, so in about 3 hours. Well, this whole idea of this page turner, we want to transition. We want to move away from that episode of the debate night. We want to sit there and move away from all of it. It's very, very easy. Put the guy on the podium. Put that guy in there for an hour and a half, a 2-hour press briefing, unvetted questions, sitting there taking, just go down the line. Just go down the line. Everybody gets 3 questions, make it 4 hours for all I care, and prove that this guy's able to do it. Sit there and release multiple cognitive tests. If you want to go above and beyond, have the guy do it live, right there on the spot, so a lot of doctors can see it. So a lot of people can actually make the assessment for themselves. Now, I tried to look into, was there anything legal that the American public could utilize as ammo to basically force this guy to do a cognitive test or have some sort of reassurance in their commander-in-chief? There isn't. The closest thing you really get is the 25th Amendment. But other than that, there's nothing. So basically, you are not entitled to have any sort of really medical information from the president of the United States, the dude that's leading the country, that's access to the nuclear codes that could basically blow up the globe multiple times over. So just a lovely thing that we just have to sit here and watch and allow this to happen. And you guys, things are so bad. I wasn't sure what I'm about to show you is even real, but I'm being told that this was leaked by White House staffers, what you're about to see. You guys, this dude is so far gone that they're having to give Joe Biden full 8.5 by 11 pictures of how to walk to the podium. Now, this is so insane that I'm not even willing to say that this is real because I can't believe it. Like, I really can't believe it that there's a template that the White House would send to the President of the United States for his events that show him where the podium is at. Now, the reason why I'm so comfortable in showing it, even though I don't even believe that it's real, but according to Axios, I guess it is because we've seen the cards before showing the pictures of the reporters, what their name is, what outlet they're with, what order he's going to question them in. We've seen the note card of him saying, walk into the room, make sure you breathe, sit down, This is this reporter. They're going to be taking the question virtually. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that something like this could be real. But I don't think we'll ever see this again in my lifetime. The fact that those pictures should be taking place. So there was a great opinion piece here in the New York Post by Miranda Devine, where they're saying that Hunter Biden is the real point person in the White House. And they're saying, don't underestimate the first son. So Democrats are trying to dislodge Joe Biden and will first have to combat the proxy commander-in-chief, Hunter Biden, and not just him, but Jill Biden. They're formulating basically a tight-knit circle around the president to where that you have to get through that circle in order to even get to the guy in the first place. So with the Biden family digging behind Joe, staying put, any staffers or party people who strong-arm Joe Biden out of being their candidate in November have better not underestimate the first son. So while the focus has been put on basically the cover girl, Jill Biden, and her screeching assurances that Joe is hale and hearty and fit for another 4 years, the first son has flown under the radar. Not really. I mean, we all have seen this guy. I commented on him during July 4th that he looked sickly, that his cheekbones were indented. You can see his eye sockets. And, you know, when I see something like that, either he's ill or he's just super in shape and runs a lot, or there's a little bit of drug usage going on. So Hunter is glued to his father's side. He's been there. He's been in Camp David. He's been in the room during meetings. He's in an advisory role, but they're saying that he's not, that he's just there for vacation. Well, we will see, because he's acting as a gatekeeper to his father and helping write speeches for him. While White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre confirmed that he has been sitting in Joe Biden's meetings with senior staff. So could that be in the role of filling in Joe Biden's words? Because we've heard meetings in the White House where Joe Biden, mid-meeting, starts wandering off. So you're sitting there and Joe Biden just leaves while you are talking. And the way that they're trying to cover it up is, well, he's just deep in thought. He's contemplating things. I know it sounds ludicrous that it's coming out of my mouth, but it is happening, to where he'll start talking and then he'll ramble and wander off. And the reason why I believe it is because this is exactly what he does when he does his campaign speeches. He will start something and he'll go, well, anyway. And that's because it just, poof, it went away. It disappeared. Joe Biden's brain stopped working mid-sentence. So it's not just Hunter. It's not just Jill getting behind him, but you got scummy Gavin Newsom stumps for Biden in Pennsylvania and deflects on the open convention. Would he actually contemplate it? Which is a legit question. So Gavin Newsom, who basically destroyed the state of California, wants to destroy the country in the same way Joe Biden as well as Kamala Harris did. So while campaigning for President Biden in the battleground state of Pennsylvania over the weekend, was asked about his own prospects should the Democratic incumbent exit the race. It's weird because what is Gavin Newsom, who is running California, doing all the way across the country for the president? Like, it would make sense of, hey, you know what? Biden's in California. Let's have Governor Gavin Newsom come up and speak, which is what Donald Trump does. Or it makes sense of, hey, Gavin Newsom's here because he's going to be my next possible vice president pick, which isn't going to happen. Similar to what Donald Trump is doing, where he's bringing Byron Donalds, Marco Rubio out, flying them all around the country, having some fun, bringing people to UFC events. But that's not what's taking place here. And we all know why, because Gavin Newsom is the person that could potentially be kind of chauffeured in last minute for an October surprise if Joe Biden decides to drop out. A longtime Biden campaign surrogate, Newsom has rallied behind the president's re-election bid, making stops in Michigan and Pennsylvania in recent days, yet his own name has been floated as a potential replacement for Biden. So here we are saying, on the heels of the disastrous debate performance for Biden, one reporter asked the governor this: if it comes to an open convention, will you run? No, I mean, it's not even interjecting the reporter pressure. Absolutely not. But he put it as a question mark. Not even, to me, it's the hypothetical that gets in the way of progress in terms of promoting this candidacy, Newsom said. That's a legit question, but it's exactly where the other party wants us to be, is having this internal fight, which is correct. And I think it's extraordinarily unhelpful. Said that literally the second after the debate, it was my first public comment. So I've been consistent in this belief not just privately, but publicly. Well, I don't believe that one bit coming from Gavin Newsom, because the guy's a chronic liar. I mean, just look what he did with Adam Carolla lying back in 2013. Adam Carolla right after the debate. Gavin Newsom has not done nothing but destroyed our state, made things absolutely worse. He blew $100 billion budget surplus. I mean, it's a remarkable thing that you can do that. Imagine if you gave this guy trillions of dollars. You think things are bad now. Wait till that dude gets in office. Things would not get any better. And it just keeps going downhill over the weekend for Joe Biden, where you have the fact that neurologists met with Biden's physician at the White House. So that was the breaking news over the weekend, that Joe Biden has had other doctors come in, specifically neurologists for Parkinson's, to, I guess, meet with the president and the president's physician. So you have Representative Andy Harris here on Biden saying it's obvious to everyone in America that he can't do this job for the next 4 years. And there's now a question whether he can actually do the job for the next 6 months.
This doctor with an expertise in Parkinson's might have visited the White House so frequently at the beginning of this year.
Well, look, it should be plain to everyone that President Biden has a neurological issue. To a lot of us who've observed him over the past few months, it's a motion disorder. It's also some cognitive disorder. And, Parkinson's would put it all together, or a Parkinson-like syndrome. So it wasn't a surprise to me at all. The surprise is the cover-up. The fact of the matter is Americans deserve to know if the president has a debilitating neurologic disease.
Agreed. And polling suggests that voters want to know, Americans want to know this very idea as well, this very thought, if you will. I wanted to hone in on this question, though. With the doctor, according to the visitor's log, meeting with the president's physician several times, but if you are looking into Parkinson's or any other degenerative disease, wouldn't you want to meet with the president himself? Why would it just be with the president's physician and not the president himself?
Well, honestly, look, who knows if they're cooking the books? I don't know. Maybe the president was with them. I agree with you. I think you would meet with the patient himself. But who knows? Look, they've been hiding this from the American people. As far as I'm concerned, they may be cooking the books over in the White House. I don't know. Wow. Certainly, it was not the president's physician that this doctor was meeting with. I would think at that high level, it should have been a physician. So again,
pretty remarkable stuff. And that was kind of what led me into talking about the discussion today of the idea of not just the cover-up and not just having all these different doctors to bring the receipts to all of you. So we've seen 4 doctors now come out and say, look, this guy is not with it. He needs to do a cognitive exam. Look at the neurologist. What the hell was a neurologist doing prior to seeing Biden's physician at the White House? Now you have a dude saying that not only that, but there's a possibility that they're cooking the books, that you would actually see the patient themselves. What is the neurologist there for the doctor, the physician that's closest to the President Joe Biden? He's not seeing the doctor. We all know what's going on. They're known to lie to all of us. They're known to cover up stuff. And so that's why, again, today is specifically talking about the fact that there is a cover up going on. And is Joe Biden's doctor complicit? And the answer that I think is absolutely. This dude is taking money from Joe Biden. This guy has donated to Joe Biden. This guy has sat there and been with the family for a very long time. And we're going to get to it in just one moment, folks. We have a jam-packed episode for all of you. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us over at Rumble. We are with you, folks. We run a Patriot show here. We do have a new moderator, Secret Agent 355, which is a cool code name. Some people caught it. So there was this thing called the Culper Ring back in the Revolutionary War times with George Washington. And through the Culper Ring, they were all given secret numbers. And somebody actually in the chat early on knew George Washington's number, which I was really impressed. The fact that you knew that. Yeah, so some of you are saying Culver, but it's the Culper Ring. And George Washington's number was, in fact, 711. They all had different numbers. And there was a woman who's unknown. There were some theories out of who it could be, but she did some pretty remarkable things. And so what could be more patriotic than somebody being a secret agent for the Bald Brad Show and helping us out, posting links and supporting the show. So give it up for Secret Agent 355, a moderator here for the Bald Brad Show, so that I can actually just focus on doing the news, which at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning ain't working out so well for me today, man. I mean, it's Monday. I called Joe Biden at the beginning of the show press secretary. I clearly had enough coffee. If I'm making those bonehead mistakes at 7 a.m., can you imagine when the show moves to 6 a.m. where I'm going to be at? I appreciate you guys understanding, though, that we're trying our best here and that Brad's all over the place every now and then. So we're going to go through a quick litany of Joe Biden's interview with George Stephanopoulos really quick, because there's some things I want to highlight here. And that first one is Biden claims the only way he will drop out is if the Lord Almighty comes down and tells me that. That doesn't help your case, Joe, because you're already teetering between the spiritual and physical realm that we said with our introduction of the show. You're talking to dead people, Joe. And now you're asking the Lord to come down and speak with you and have a conversation going, look, man, you just don't have it in you, Joe. How many more lies do we have on the books for you? There's not enough pages in heaven to record all your lies, Joe. You're not coming in. I'm not letting you in, Joe. That's a joke. That's facetious, but you understand what I mean. Joe wants to talk to God, to sit there and have that discussion of whether he should be president. Even the Lord Almighty saying, go, just quit, Joe. Put it up, buddy. Hang up the jersey. So let's pull up that clip. We have it right here.
If you can be convinced that you cannot defeat Donald Trump, will you stand down?
Well, it depends if the Lord Almighty comes down and tells me that, I might do that.
Well, I mean, on a more practical level, Washington Post just reported in the last hour that Senator Mark Warner is assembling a group of senators together to try and convince you to stand down because they don't think you can win.
Well, Mark is a good man, but we've never had that. He also tried to get the nomination, too. Mark and I have a different perspective. I respect him.
And if Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi come down and say, we're worried that if you stay in the race, we're going to lose the House and the Senate, how will you respond?
I go into detail with them. I've spoken to all of them in detail, including Jim Clyburn. Every one of them. They all said I should stay in the race. Stay in the race. None of the people said I should leave.
But if they do?
Well, it's like, they're not going to do that.
You sure?
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. I got to wait for the Lord to come down and tell me to get me out, which isn't going to happen. Joe, you shouldn't be calling on the Lord for really anything to do with coming down and speaking with you, because if that were to happen, I don't know if you're going to be coming back, buddy. I don't know, because you are already teetering. That's the last thing you want. You should be praying to the Lord that he's there to help you. And you know what? That's actually a very great point. A lot of us are people of faith. I'm a Christian myself. As much as we hound Joe Biden, he's our president. Whether you like it or not, there's some people like, he ain't my president, Brad. No way in hell. I'm going to stop listening to you right now. Look, he's the president, okay? Whether you think the guy won or didn't win, that's beside the point. The dude's in the Oval Office, all right? I don't like it just as much as you do, all right? But one thing I can say is we should always be rooting that he will succeed. We need to pray for this guy. He's a freaking human being. And you are watching in real time one of the toughest things I've had to watch in my life in terms of a public figure being chauffeured out by his own family to run for the office of the presidency when he's wandering off, drooling, he gets lost, he can't get his own Oval Office, he has Secret Service guiding him left and right. I mean, this is a terrible thing we're all watching, and all we should be doing, quite frankly, behind closed doors is praying for this man, because if we get another 4 years of Joe Biden, you're going to see like no holds bar, man. This guy's going to be going off the rails, fossil fuel industry gone, and removing the guns. I want to go after your Second Amendment rights. Like, dude, it's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. And speaking of things that are crazy, he's saying that he's more qualified to be president. What, Joe? What? Here we go.
Down. It's been a two-man race for several months. Inflation has come down. In those last few months, he's become a convicted felon. Yet you're still falling further behind.
You guys keep saying that. George, you know polling better than anybody. Do you think polling data is accurate as it used to be?
I don't think so, but I think when you look at all of the polling data right now, it shows that he's certainly ahead in the popular vote, probably even more ahead in the battleground states. And one of the other key factors there is it shows that in many of the battleground states, the Democrats who are running for Senate and the House are doing better than you are.
Well, that's not unusual in some states. I carried an awful lot of Democrats last time I ran in 2020. Look, I remember them telling me the same thing in 2020. I can't win. The polls show I can't win. Remember 2020, the red wave was coming. Before the vote, I said that's not going to happen. We're going to win. We did better in an off year than almost any incumbent.
It's just remarkable they keep bringing up 2020 when Joe was like, I mean, very rarely was Donald Trump leading in the polls. I mean, it's pretty much Joe. There was talk about red wave, which we don't sit here and push that anymore because we all saw what happened. But as of right now, there are polls showing that Joe Biden is winning in some key battleground states, you guys. So amidst of all of this, please understand that Democrats are not only going to try to do the same foolery they did in 2020, but they're also going to sit there and show up for Joe in big numbers. You make, Brad, how the hell could they be doing that with inflation, with grocery prices, with the wars happening around the world, with illegal immigrants and the millions pouring into our country, not just trying to change our culture, but also committing heinous crimes? Folks, they don't care. Look at what they're doing to their own states. Just look at what they're willing to do to Oregon, Washington, California, Michigan. They will sit there and destroy states and then move to other states because they don't like the very thing that they destroyed. And the very thing that they destroyed through their own ideology and initiatives, their policies, they blame on Republicans. This is what they're going to do to your states. This is what they're going to do to your localities. This is what they're going to do to the country. And you're seeing it in real time with Joe Biden being part of the Democrat Party. And it's only going to get worse if this dude's elected again, president, another 4 years. And it's freaking possible. That's the crazy thing. It's so possible. So he sat there, and I'm not going to show the clip, but he sat there and said that I'm the guy that shut down Putin. I'm the guy that Putin shut down. Okay. So President Joe Biden claimed during an interview on the Friday that he's capable of serving as president of the United States for another 4 years, even though 80% of Americans believe that just isn't the case. I'm the guy that put NATO together, the future. No one thought I could expand it. I'm the guy that shut Putin down. Okay. I don't even want to bother showing that clip because it's only going to piss me off. So he does all these interviews, right? He goes and meets with these radio hosts and he gives them the questions ahead of time. And if you didn't hear what happened to that radio host, well, folks, she was fired. The radio host that came out and told CNN and other outlets that she received questions beforehand from the Biden campaign was ultimately fired over the weekend. Wild. This is what happens when you go against the Biden family, folks. This is what happens when you don't do as you're told. Another local radio host who interviewed President Joe Biden in the days following the presidential admitted that he received the questions beforehand. In statements given to ABC News, Wisconsin station host Earl Ingram confirmed that he was given as well 5 questions to ask Biden during their recent chat and wasn't able to get through all of them before the interview. This is a whole separate person that received questions as well. So there was a lady that interviewed him. She was fired. This dude comes out from Wisconsin radio station, says, yeah, I got the questions beforehand as well. Yes, I was given some questions for Biden. Ingram, who hosts the Earl Ingram Show, was the second local radio host this weekend to admit they received a list of questions to use for interviewing Biden. And what is Karine probably going to say on the podium later today? Well, it's normal for that to happen. It's normal for us to send out questions. It's not uncommon for that to happen, playing it off like everything is normal. Everything is fine. Nothing to see here, folks. It's all smoke, no fire. So be prepared for that. We are going to go live again later today for that White House press briefing. Come out and hang out with us for that hour long. It's going to be a gong show. It's going to be a bleep show. So Dems are calling on Biden to leave. And we have a report here. Let's see if I can pull it up. There we go. I'm not going to read this whole thing, of course, but this is from Axios. And what they're saying is that basically there's a 10-to-1 ratio of people that want Biden out compared to those that want to keep Biden in. So a front page story from the Washington Post quotes an advisor to major donors as estimating for every 10 people who think he should exit, 1 thinks he should stay. The story says multiple people publicly vouching for Biden at the behest of the White House and campaign privately say there's no path. So you're going, the people that you see going, he's good. Come on, when you get back down, you get back up. You know, these people behind closed doors are saying there's no way in hell. This guy's done. Have you seen Joe? Yeah, I sat there and pushed that he was fit too. You did the same thing. You lied to the American people for 3.5 years. Oh, don't worry, I did the exact same thing. It's astonishing that they sat there and lied to us for 3.5 years, and they still have the balls to come out and lie to you after everything you've seen. It's cheap fakes. It's deep fakes. It ain't real. It's all in your head. You're a bunch of liars. I mean, the fact of how quick that page, that script page flipped. It was like, what, 72 hours that they were telling us it's cheap fakes, it's deep fakes. You have the debate. Joe Biden's gone. He's wandering off. He's the wanderer in chief. He's not with us. Dude, you just got done 3 days before telling us that we're all freaking conspiracy theorists, that we're disrespectful, that we're producing cheap fakes and deep fakes. I mean, we did a whole show on it together. Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. I also wanted to point out that Biden got a rare bit of encouraging polling news Saturday, as I've mentioned. So Bloomberg News and Morning Consult, their tracking poll of battleground states found that he now leads Donald Trump in Michigan, you guys, and Wisconsin. The candidates are statistically tied for Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina. Biden remains behind in must-win Pennsylvania, where he's campaigning on Sunday. Expect Pennsylvania to go up. Here's the problem, is that if we're already behind now when Joe Biden is basically at his worst, the Democrat Party is fractured, Donald Trump is going to go into another debate. The next one right now is scheduled for September, I want to say. I think that's right, with ABC News. We don't know who the moderators are yet. As I've mentioned previously, and you guys know we've said this, is that Donald Trump has to have a perfect night. Joe Biden just has to have a mediocre night. If Joe Biden has a mediocre night, you see all these swing states in terms of polling flipping for Joe Biden. And here's another problem. As I mentioned, everything that was done in 2020 will happen again in 2024 in terms of voter registration fraud. Voter registration fraud, voter fraud, all going to happen again. The harvesting, nothing was done, nothing was looked into, nothing was investigated by Congress, nothing. And so they're going to do it again. There's a reason why the RNC or GOP has current lawsuits out for Nevada and Michigan. Michigan right now and Wisconsin are being won by Joe Biden. And Michigan right now is not willing to clean up their voter registration rules, and neither is Nevada, which Nevada is another key state that Joe Biden virtually could win again because it's razor thin. So let's get to the big news of the day, and that big news is Joe Biden's doctor to testify about president's mental state in front of Congress. Republicans are calling on that in present time. But before we get there, I want to give a shout out to Rumble, specifically Rumble's store. If you haven't been there, folks, go check it out because they have exclusive apparel right now, and it has finally arrived. They're now offering a freaking 20% off all purchases in the Rumble store with the discount code DROP20. Rumble is a platform of free speech. A lot of conservatives, a lot of Republicans, hell, even independents, and no joke, even some Democrats are coming to Rumble because they want to utilize Rumble for its free speech platform. And now they got merch that you could support as well. If you want to support the brand that is fighting for free speech and fighting for our First Amendment, this is the best way to do it. They have tees, sweaters, hats, plus much more. Check out rumble.store and make sure to drop 20 as the promo code to get 20% off your entire order. It's always nice to get those huge deals, especially when Bidenomics is going on and things are a tight pinch. Head over to rumble.store and get some merchandise, baby. I'm gonna have to pick up some myself. So we got Rumble pushing free speech. Joe Biden doesn't want to allow it. And somebody that's sitting there locking up that free speech is potentially the enabling of Joe Biden's doctor to come out and talk to all of us. And so this is something that's been asked of Jean-Pierre many of times is, hey, why doesn't the doctor come out on the podium and, take our questions? Well, they won't do it. But when Donald Trump's in office, you bet your ass that you better get that doctor out there because his hand was shaking slightly. Maybe the guy's blood sugar was a little low, but he has to sit there and testify and answer everybody's questions. But when it comes to Joe Biden Democrat Party, it's always a different story. So Republicans are now demanding, specifically the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, that White House physician Dr. Kevin O'Connor appear for testimony over Biden's mental state and overseas business dealings. Why is this so important? Because they could sit there and put certain things into the record, and they can demand certain documents from his doctor to look into what's going on cognitively with Joe Biden. And if he's testifying under oath, he has has to tell the truth. So Comer also called on O'Connor to fork over relevant documents on his dealings related to the president's younger brother, James Biden, and gave him a week to make contact with committee staffers in a letter sent out on Sunday. So not only the fact that it's like a double whammy. You're going to ask him about Joe Biden's cognitive health, but also what's going on with the business dealings. Weird. You got a lot of money coming in from the Biden family. You got a lot of transfers of money going on. Have you seen Joe Biden work with his son, Hunter Biden? Because we were told that wasn't happening. What's going on with the checks coming into James Biden, Joe Biden's brother's bank account, into the big guy's bank account, Joe Biden? Why are they receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars from other countries? Weird stuff going on. So this guy, quite frankly, could allegedly be very corrupt, and he's covering up Joe Biden's mental health, which is why we prefaced the 4 physicians beforehand with all that stuff, to show the receipts, to set it up and say, and give that big picture story of major cover-up going on. After a concerning debate performance, President Joe Biden against former President Donald Trump on June 27th, journalists have rushed to report on what Americans have been seeing plainly for years. The president appears unwell. I mean, it's beyond unwell. It's just he's gone. The Kentucky Republican zeroed in on O'Connor's health summary from February, in which he insists that Biden's health, check this quote out, Biden is a healthy, active, and robust 81-year-old male. Oh, no, he's not. No, he isn't. We all know that he's not. Stop it. Comer also highlighted concerns that O'Connor has not recommended Biden submit to a cognitive exam, and amid heightened concerns over his mental acuity. Again, if you want to turn the page, show the cognitive exams. Now, here's the problem. This dude seems like he's being paid off, or at least he's willing to be one of Joe Biden's surrogates, giving him contributions and donations, and I'm willing to do this or that. I'm not willing to stand on the podium. Folks, let me know in the chat. Do you guys think this guy is corrupt? Do you think Joe Biden's doctor is hiding something? Just say yes or no. Let me know in the chat. Is Joe Biden's doctor hiding something from the American public? I have a feeling I know what all of you are going to say. Pat says, if the Hur tapes come out, do you think Hur will be fired for the report that he did? I don't think he'll be fired. I think right now, look, the damage has already been done. We already have what we think to believe Joe Biden kind of said, right? Because he didn't know when he was president. He didn't know when his son died, those types of things. So I don't think it would hurt. And the fact that Attorney General Merrick Garland isn't willing to release the tapes, I think he's not willing to release them because it's worse than what we think. At this point, that's the only reason why he wouldn't release it. With all the news that's coming out about Joe Biden not being there cognitively, the fact that, hey, he should take a cognitive test, all these things. We already have a picture in our mind of how bad the Robert Hur report is and the audio tape. I think it's a lot worse than what we even think, and that's why he's holding on to it. The dude's willing to go to jail. He's willing to be fined $10,000 a day for Joe Biden to not give up those tapes. There's something on those bad boys that, quite frankly, could be pretty bad and damning to the president. Again, during the debate, he froze up at times. He looked exhausted, yada, yada, yada. And when asked why he hasn't taken a cognitive exam, he said, no one said I had to. Like, dude, where have you been? Where have you been? No one said I had to. The entire country is telling you to take a cognitive exam, Joe. And so, again, Comer reveals White House physician was involved in Biden family business dealings. Oh, how convenient. The same guy that we're supposed to trust with the president's health, the same guy that we're supposed to trust, give us, trustworthy information, makes us now not trust him as much. The dude that gave him a physical exam, everything's fine. I touched the president's balls and made him cough. He's good. His brain's working. His balls is attached to his brain. I'm not even sure if those are working. So you have here, again, the Oversight Committee chairman, James Comer, is demanding the White House physician and declining the president's mental state. So he's going to look into it. I just want to give you another source here. The fact that he's going to look into his business dealings. And that's important because if you connect the web of all the stuff's going on, Joe Biden's basically either getting paid off or paying off others to keep information quiet about the Biden family corruption, about the classified document scandal, about all the money funneling in from Russia, Ukraine, and Romania. I mean, the amount of money that's in circulation right here is pretty mind-blowing. And all the money that's kind of just disappeared going to Ukraine is a little weird, right? The fact that just like $40 million disappeared, let's give 10 billion to this country. Here's another 60 to 100 billion to this country. And they just also happen to be countries that Joe Biden has family business dealings in. It's a little weird. And a lot of people are a little upset that Comer hasn't come out with a lot of receipts in terms of, connecting it. But as somebody that's been an auditor before, when you're trying to get all this information and it's like pulling teeth already to get the information, it makes it that much harder when you don't really have any authority at the end of the day to get this information. Nobody really gets thrown behind bars unless you're Republican, right? So it's already hard enough to connect the web of somebody that's been allegedly doing this corruption for 50 years. 50 years. So the guy has a big task under his belt. I don't know if anything's actually going to come of it. But we've seen checks go from China into James Biden's bank account, Joe Biden's brother, into Joe Biden's bank account. We've seen money come in from like China or Ukraine into Hunter Biden's account. And we've seen checks from Hunter to Joe Biden for like insane amount of money. And he goes, oh, well, it was for rent. Or no, Joe, this one's real. Well, so was the rent one. But he goes, oh, it was for the financing of a truck. I couldn't afford a truck. Really? Because you're receiving millions of dollars and you're on the board of like all these natural gas companies and just all these companies in general. And you don't know shit about any of them. But somehow you're just, making buku bucks, but you can't afford a truck. So you have to finance it. Unbelievable stuff. You also have some trending news yesterday where, again, Biden claims Philly roots. Critics scratch their heads. So President Joe Biden made a statement that Philadelphia played a crucial role in getting him elected to the U.S., which we covered that clip at the beginning of today's show, despite being a senator from Delaware, not Pennsylvania, where Philadelphia is located. This had led to criticism and confusion with social media users and critics pointing out that the geographical discrepancy and questioning the accuracy of Biden's claim. Yes, because everything he says is a cluster bleep. As I mentioned, I'm going to keep repeating this. Joe Biden is trying to prove that he's mentally sharp, that he's physically fit, that he could do it, that he's up for the job. First of all, where was this for 3.5 years of him just going off the cuff, talking to people, rambling, all these things? It wasn't there, but all of a sudden it is, and we're supposed to take him seriously. Furthermore, Democrat representatives urged Biden to step aside for 2024. And as we mentioned, there's people that are calling for him to stay in the race publicly, but behind closed doors, they're going, he's finished. He needs to tap out. It's terrible what we're seeing happening to Joe. So 4 senior House Democrats. Dude, this one blew me away when I read this. Jerry Nadler is asking for Joe Biden to step down. The dude that sat there and said illegal immigrants aren't voting in municipal elections, even though you had, I think it was Jim Jordan, sat there and held up the paper. He's like, we have it right here, Jerry. We have it right here. Your face is on it. Okay, you're the one that wanted this. You put it up. That liar, Jerry Nadler. You got Adam Smith, Joe Morrell have called on President Joe Biden to step aside as the Democratic nominee for 2024 presidential election. This call was made during a private leadership call with discussions also circulating among Democrat donors about a blitz primary to quickly replace Biden if he were to drop out. I was pretty like solid on Joe Biden going to stay in the race. But man, if more senior Democrats come out, I think the pressure is going to be too much. I mean, they're really squeezing Joe here, and I don't know if he's going to stay in. I really don't know. And again, more Democrats here urging Biden to step down for 2024 that we just got done saying. I mean, it's a tight squeeze right now. And I think that's also going to be the question that Karine Jean-Pierre is going to be proposed here in today's White House press briefing. Like I mentioned, we are going to go live for today's White House press briefing a little bit later today in about 2.5 hours. Oh, Big Weave is now a monthly supporter over at Rumble. Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate it. We got a lot of people watching on YouTube. We got a lot of people watching over at Rumble and Twitter. Scott in the South, good to see you. Karen, Cat Mom, Michelle. And it's so tiny. We have Tim Costello. Kathy's here. Janice. Patrick's always here. We got a Sweet Sunset, ACDC. I see all of you in the live chat. I see all you American Patriots. We always got Willie in here. Golden Girl as well. A lot of you are really giving me great, I might as well do this now. You guys are really giving me great compliments on the book, which is really kind because it's my first book ever. Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. Jean said it was the only thing bad she said about it so far was it was too short. Hey, you know what? I'll take it as long as you guys are enjoying the book. Again, you can head over to Amazon or anything in the description right there. It does have all the links to all the stuff we have to offer you. The book is Trojan Horse: How the Left is Destroying America. Well, speaking of destroying America, I always said I'd keep you up to date on this election stuff, right? So check this one out. Hopefully you're sitting down. Everybody's sitting down for this. House Democrats launch united effort against election bill requiring voters to prove citizenship. Yo, even Elon Musk tweeted about it. So House Democrats launched a united effort to vote against a Republican-backed election bill that would require voters to provide proof of citizenship to cast ballots in federal elections. And the Democrats, it's racist. Black people can't sit there and get IDs. What? You're going to tell me black people can't get IDs? That's racist. They're human beings just because the color of their skin is different than mine or whatever. It doesn't matter. They're capable of doing the exact same thing I am. It's so crazy. Why do they want to do this? Because they want to cheat you guys. That's why they want to do it. There's no other reason as to why. They can give us all this bullshit. Oh, well, it's racist. It's bigot. That people can't get IDs. Everybody can get an ID. Go down to the DMV. I know we all don't want to go down there, but go down to the DMV and get yourself an ID. Republicans are pushing the passage of the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, otherwise known as the SAVE Act, which would amend the National Voter Registration Act and require states to obtain proof of citizenship from voters for federal elections, as well as purge of non-citizen from voter rolls. Weird. I was told that wasn't happening, you guys, from the Democrat Party. I was told that non-citizens weren't voting. I mean, Jerry Nadler said as much in municipal elections, at least. What about federal elections? Why would you have to include something like that if it wasn't happening? Democratic leadership is urging its House members to vote against the bill in the lead up to the vote, saying it would place an extreme burden on countless Americans. What? You just go and stand in line, you fill out some paperwork. What burden? Oh, the whores. What a great country we live in, that it's a burden to go get an ID. Like, there's fucking people starving around the world, can't get a quality education, don't have a fucking roof over their head. Oh, the whore, they can't go to the DMV to get an ID. What a burden. It's so tough. Is it probably a burden for some people? Absolutely. It probably is. It probably is. As we've seen a number of times in this Congress, House Republicans continue to irresponsibly call into question the credibility of our elections. Yeah. Despite numerous recounts, challenges in court, and deep dives by conservative think tanks, there have been zero evidence of the widespread fraud that this bill purports to target. You know what's funny is they keep talking about recounts. As somebody that did auditing for a little bit, you are just sitting there recounting the same errors over again. So if you were to challenge the credibility of whatever you're reading in terms of ballots or some sort of document or whatever, then if you weren't going to sit there and investigate whatever document or record that you're looking at to see if it's actually reasonable, if it's legitimate, then by you doing a recount, you're just reassessing the same errors that you did previously. So how is that helpful in any way, shape, or form? If you sat there and did 1,000 ballots, say for Biden, and they were all fraudulent, and you go, let's do a recount again, then you're going to have 1,000 ballots that are fraudulent for Joe Biden again. You didn't actually solve anything. So this is the stuff that they push here, and they make it seem like a recount is a verifiable proof that voter is actually legitimate, when we know from people from Nevada voted from properties that didn't exist in the first place. There wasn't even a property on the land. What I mean by that, literally not a building. There wasn't even a foundation. Some of these properties people voted for were like on a freeway in the middle of a desert. Like, you look out, there ain't anything there. There's a tumbleweed rolling by, but that's it. By the way, it sounds like I'm being satirical. I'm not in any way, shape, or form. That's all legit. So I sound like Joe Biden. No kidding. It's all real. No, seriously, believe me. It's already illegal under current law for non-citizens to register to vote or to vote in federal elections. You think they give a shit? Like, you guys actually sat there and did some fraudulent stuff, which I just said, over last election. It was so wild that 21% of people admitted to voter fraud. We covered that like a year ago. There was a poll. People came out and said, yeah, I sat there and fraudulently filled some paperwork out. Yeah, I actually voted for somebody else too and just signed off their name. But don't worry, you guys, it's not happening. It's remarkable that Democrats sit there and tell you time and time again that certain things are or are not happening and it's all bullshit, but yet we come on here and call them out, but yet we're the lies. We're the people that spread misinformation, disinformation. Unbelievable. Really wild stuff. So you had, I believe it was Tim Pool here, mentioning this article. And he said, what, why, who disagrees with this? Well, Tim, Democrats disagree with it. Elon Musk said it perfectly, because they want to cheat. It's right there. Yes, sirree. Yes, sirree. And people are going, oh, Elon, take off your tinfoil hat. People are citing the Constitution. People are doing all these things. It's not happening. It's not real. Yeah. No, it's real. And so Democrats whip against GOP's latest election crackdown. They're not happy about it, you guys. So not only are they in a frenzy right now because their nominee sucks, Joe Biden, they sat there and basically pushed it for 3.5 years, but now because of that, they're worried that they're not going to have enough votes, and they need all these illegal immigrants that they just allowed into this country to vote on behalf of the Democrat Party. So that's why House Democrat leadership is bringing out the big guns against the Republican bill that will require proof. Axios has learned. Well, why does it matter? Is because House Republicans have made non-citizen voting in federal elections for which there's no evidence of widespread phenomenon. Well, if it's not a big deal, then why not put it up for the vote then? Like, why not vote for it? If it's not sitting there impacting anything, if it's no hurt, then why not do it? Well, we know why. In the same way, the analogy works perfectly with Joe Biden's cognitive health. If you are sitting there saying you're mentally sharp, right? That you're not cognitively impaired, you don't have a disability, then why not put up a cognitive test? Why not do it? So it works in here. If there's no widespread voter fraud, if there's no like non-citizens voting, then just vote for it then. There's no big deal. It's no loss to you. And if anything, it's only a positive side to the bill to make sure that we have better election integrity. Oh, but you're burdening Americans. They can't go get an ID. So the state of play, as we mentioned, is a SAVE Act, and it goes yada, 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 on and on and on. So some other stuff I want to get into, you guys, is before we end here, is the national debt is surging to record levels without reform and raising prospects of a debt crisis. Now, this is going to spook the economy. This could potentially do a spiral down, and things aren't looking good here for us as a country. As Americans' political focus turns towards the fall's elections, the winner of the presidential race will be confronted with the national debt that's on pace to reach a record high. Now, both presidents have blown the budget. They've increased our deficit, both Trump and Joe Biden. And that was one of my biggest criticisms of Donald Trump, is how much money he did spend, because one of my biggest criticisms and is not just illegal immigration, but it's also our national debt. You guys, this is such a big problem. I actually don't know how to put it into words, how scary our debt is. So a recent update of the federal government's long-term budget outlook by the nonpartisan CBO found that the budget deficits are projected to widen from 1.9 trillion this year to more than 2 trillion annually starting in 2030, before nearly hitting almost $3 trillion deficit in 2034. In that period, we can go from basically 34 trillion to over 50 trillion in 2034. That says 28 trillion this year. We're at 34, almost 33, 34 trillion dollars, I think, on the time clock in terms of the debt clock. When compared to the size of the U.S. economy in terms of its gross domestic product, GDP, by the public, is projected to rise from 99% of GDP this year to 106% in 2027, which is just around the corner. Dude, we're getting to the point, you guys. Oh, there you go. Yeah, it is 34 trillion. It says it right down there as of 7-3. So it's actually higher than that number. So we're about to hit 35 trillion here. It might already be 35 trillion. But you guys, these are scary times, because the interest alone is what we're going to be paying off. Like, we're not actually going to be paying down the principal of that 34 trillion. Now we're going to be 35 trillion. It's going to get to the point where we're just paying for the interest. But don't worry, it's a great idea, you guys, because we're paying for everybody else's defense. We're giving them billions of dollars. We're giving humanitarian aid to terrorist countries, that, all these things. No, it's awesome. It's really great. And so you have Donald Trump talking about how illegal immigrants are coming in and taking our Social Security, and Democrats are going, well, that's not happening. What, you're crazy, man. Well, here's Senator Marco Rubio says Americans, they've worked here for their entire lives. They retire, they get $800, $900, $1,000 a month for Social Security. Somebody who just got here from Cuba 3 months ago is getting $1,500. So while you get $800, $900, $1,000, Somebody can come here from Cuba 3 months ago and get $1,500.
I see a lot in South Florida are people that have been in this country that maybe came from Cuba 45 years ago. They've worked here their entire lives. They retire. They get $800, $900, $1,000 a month from Social Security. And then they run into somebody who just got here from Cuba 3 months ago, 29 years old, doesn't work, and is given $1,500 a month in benefits by our government because they're refugees. That refugee, a year later, is traveling back to Cuba 15 times. So you're a refugee fleeing oppression from a place that you now go back and visit 15 times the following year. And in the meantime, we're giving you Medicaid, food stamps, health care for your children, cash payments from the refugee fund. So imagine if you've been working here for 40 years and your Social Security check is smaller than the benefits going to a 28-year-old able-bodied person who just got here. That's real. That happens. That's happening every day. That makes no sense.
Marco, you liar. There's no way that is happening. I'm being told something different by Joe Biden. I should believe Joe. You know this pissed off all of you. The Patriots are losing their shit right now. You guys, that's just your benefits. Isn't that just lovely? And you know what Democrats say? This is the kicker. Well, Social Security will be there. You'll just get 70% of it. What? Let me break this down for you. You pay all this money into Social Security for your retirement. You know, money that you don't have a decision if you think about it. You're basically forced to pay into Social Security, right? In other words, that's like worse than a tax. Because technically, I don't want to break into it, but you have Social Security, right? You pay all that money to Social Security, and the Democrats go, hey, well, you know, at least you're going to get 70% of it instead of none of it. What happened to the 30% that you stole? They're going to steal your freaking retirement. You know, that money that probably would have sat there and made more when it was in a 401k or 403b or an IRA, Roth, traditional, doesn't matter what it is. If you would have put that money in the market, you would be a multi-millionaire by the time you retire if you didn't, instead of putting it in Social Security. It's a scam, you guys. It's a scam. I've always said, and this has been echoed by Vivek Ramaswamy as well. I've been saying this for years, even before Vivek talked about it. There needs to be a restructuring of Social Security. And I think there needs to be those that are, say, born, let's say if we enacted this now, those that are born starting in 2025 don't actually get Social Security, and they have to find other mechanisms for retirement. And anybody that was born before 2025 is grandfathered into Social Security. So I think that's the route, excuse me, that we need to go. And I think we'd be able to fund it because the birth rates are declining pretty substantially, and baby boomers are kind of moving into, you know, I hate to say it, but kind of, you know, going down the road a little bit here. So there needs to be a restructuring because our entitlement programs make up about 70% of our budget. It's not military. It's a big misnomer. Military is like third or fourth in terms of how much money we spend as a government. Entitlement programs is what is crippling this country. And we've changed a culture of us of just taking money, just take, but never giving. So it's a really big switch from the Democrat Party of the FDR days of where he's like, it's not what your country can do for you. It's what you can do for your country. You guys remember that quote? There's also this great scene with Russell Crowe in The Cinderella Man where he's in really dire straits and he goes to the office of welfare to get money because he can't survive. He has to feed himself and his family. And so he uses that money. He becomes a boxer and he just makes it big time. And what he did was, this is going back into, I think, the early 1900s. What he does is he goes and takes that money that he now made back because he's wealthy, and he goes to the welfare office and tries to pay them back. You don't even see anything remotely like that nowadays, where people, welfare is supposed to get you up, you know, on your feet and get you out of the pickle that you're in, and that there's nobody that's ever pays it back. I mean, what a remarkable thing we would do as a society, and how better off we would be in terms of financials is if those people paid it back, the money that they took. So obviously that's not the case, but anyways, that is today's episode, folks. If you enjoyed it, hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us over at Rumble. Hit us up on Locals. There's articles that are going to be posted. I'll write one today as well. We're going to be live again in about 2 hours to cover the White House press briefing with jean-pierre. You guys know that's our bread and butter, and we have a damn good time doing it together as a community. Again, make sure you check out all the links we have to offer. Any donations would be greatly appreciated. It does help support the show. We're a one-man ship here. I guess two now that we have a moderator. But with that being said, folks, thank you so much. And I will see you later today here for another episode of The Bo Brown Show.